Welcome, everybody. What an honor to be here among so many amazing Chicagoans. Can we give it up for Chicago? I always wanted to do that. And what an honor to be here celebrating Alex. Truly is an honor. I'm Ben Austen, I'm the MC tonight. I just learned that MC doesn't actually mean move the crowd. I was told it just means move all the speakers along. We're supposed to keep it really tight. A little bit about me. Like Alex, I'm also a Chicago writer of nonfiction. And also like Alex, I wrote a book about Chicago public housing. His book, There Are No Children Here, was named one of the most important books of the 20th century. That deserves... My book, it did okay. I'm all right with that. Oprah made a movie of his book. That could still happen for me. Did Oprah come tonight? I want her to be like, he gets a movie. I have the great fortune of having Alex as a friend. Every few months we get together for lunch to talk about what we're working on. It's really more like a therapy session. Whichever one of us has a book in the works, they're the therapist. The other one who is struggling to find out the next big thing, they're the patient. One of us says, yes, you will find another project. No, it's not over. The person you're waiting to interview you, they'll get back to you. When we meet, we sometimes say we wish we were fiction writers. We envy them. We're like, you mean they could just make shit up? Before we even sit down to write, we have to spend years and years reporting. We have to spend years talking to other people. It's a lot. But here's the secret about the kind of reporting that Alex does and that I do. The reporting is the best part. Spending all that time with other people, it expands your experiences. It enlarges your life. The process is painstaking, but it's also intimate. Often the people that you write about, that you report on, become like family. That kind of immersive reporting, it's also kind of weird. And for people who do the work here, they know what I mean. People are always like, who is that guy writing everything down? Why is he always here? What's going on? It's also messy and complicated in all the ways that any decent journalist should realize. What does it mean to tell someone else's story? What does it mean to report and write from a position of privilege? Alex is a model of how to do this right. The amount of time and care it takes, the humbleness, how to do it ethically, morally. One of the things Alex always says about reporting is that it's an act of empathy. That's the skill you need to have, empathy. You need to be able to truly share feelings with other people. And you need to do this so well that you can somehow turn around and share those experiences again with an audience, with readers or listeners or watchers. Many of you might know this, Alex doesn't call himself a journalist. He calls himself a storyteller. He believes in the power of stories, that these real-life stories can shape our understanding of the world, that they can transform our world, that they can make the world better. What a mission. What a challenge to be on. It's what Alex has been doing his entire career. And not just through his work either. He's also doing it by influencing others. I'm certainly among those. And this is a way to say the next speaker is too. The next speaker is going to be Meribah Knight. And I actually met Meribah through Alex when she was moving from Chicago to Nashville. She now works for Nashville's public radio station. Alex told me about this brilliant student at Northwestern, and Meribah is brilliant. She created a podcast about the removal of public housing in Nashville. Maybe you see a pattern here. It's called The Promise, and it won a Peabody. She's done this incredible reporting on the juvenile justice system in Tennessee. Painful reporting, and brilliant. She won awards for that work too, and I'd say more importantly than the awards, her work led to the retirement of a corrupt judge, and it led to new oversight rules in the juvenile justice system there. Please welcome to the stage, Meribah Knight.
Okay. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited to be here. Oh, my cheeks hurt. Okay. Alex, we're gathered here today because you're a national treasure. You're a treasure to this city. You're a treasure to this craft. You're a treasure to the storytelling community here, many of whom are in this room today. And you're a treasure to me as a friend, as a mentor, as my ruthless yet benevolent storytelling coach. He is very honest. I think we can all agree that there is no one quite like Alex Kotlowitz. The way he tells stories and his commitment to them, some over decades, literal decades. The way he nurtures relationships, how he pours himself into the people he cares about. And his humility, truly the absence of hubris. Like, it doesn't exist. I've looked for it. It's nowhere, despite all of his accomplishments. In the 15 years I've known him, not a smidge. And he gives the absolute best advice. It's tempered, it's thoughtful, it's strategic. If you are in a moral or an ethical dilemma, you need to call Alex. I do roughly 3 times a week, based on my call log. Of course, as Ben mentioned, there's also Alex's innate talent and his ability to report anywhere with anyone and be exactly who he is. A lanky, slightly clumsy, bespectacled white dude, no code switching, no smoke and mirrors, it's just Alex. It's so rare to find someone who is as good of a reporter as they are a writer. But Alex is one of those people. Somehow he manages to never get overrun by facts, yet he pursues them doggedly. And his writing is never fussy, never pretentious, always whittled to the finest point, just stunningly beautiful. It's funny, though, because in the book, The New Journalism, Alex is asked about his work routine, to which he replied, "I have no routine whatsoever, at least when it comes to work." And I'm here to tell you, this is true. Alex has no routine. One time he told me he didn't make outlines. I almost lost my damn mind. Who doesn't make an outline? It's so unfair. We're in a room of writers. Who doesn't make an outline? But alas, in the 5 years I worked with him on An American Summer, yes, as his research assistant, yes, I swear I didn't see a single outline. Not a single outline. He's really that good. It's like somehow he manages to see the story so clearly. It's just there, like ready to tumble out. But like any writer, he can get stuck. And this happened a few years into his last book. He'd blown a couple deadlines. Friends began asking, bluntly over dinner, like, when the fuck is this book gonna be done? And Alex is quite private, and we love this about Alex. You know, it keeps him a bit mysterious. So honestly, I don't know if he was stuck or if he was just procrastinating. I don't know what geniuses do on a day-to-day basis, but the book was not done. And I decided I needed to be proactive. I was his assistant, after all, so I needed to assist him. So I asked if I could organize all of his materials, and he happily obliged. And I went to work printing out all of his notes, his memos, his documents, organizing them all chronologically, then putting them into 3-ring binders. And there was one binder for each story. So if you read the book, you know there were like 20 stories in An American Summer. My OCD was just over the moon. I loved it. I used little dividers to separate everything. And when I finished, I delivered them, boxes full of binders, to Alex's home in Oak Park. And Alex was so impressed. He like could not get over this. And it's called being organized. It's called being organized, Alex. But then he started writing. And he started to send me drafts. And hell, they were close to perfect. Like every damn story, the prose, the depth of the reporting, every lead was spot on, the structure, it was all there, just waiting to come tumbling out. It was really, really something to behold. I felt so honored to get to read those early drafts because I've admired Alex's writing since I was young. I mean, I know a lot of people say that Alex Kotlowitz made them want to be a journalist, but Alex Kotlowitz really made me decide to be a journalist. And we know that Alex writes about a lot of sad stuff, but I think what truly defines his work, what makes it so potent, is the presence of hope. Hope that we as people, as society, as neighbors, that we can be better together. The writer E.B. White, which is another one of my favorite writers besides Alex, once wrote that a writer should tend to lift people up, not lower them down. And that's exactly what Alex does. He lifts people up, the people he writes about, but also his reader, listener, viewer, his students. Everyone Alex's work touches, we are lifted up by him. So in the spirit of Alex, tonight is really about the presence and the possibility of hope. When I sat down to write this little speech, which will go over 5 minutes, I'm very sorry, I decided to dip into some E.B. White. You know, his writing and the economy of it really helps me to limber up. So I pulled a book off the shelf, a book of E.B. White's letters, and thumbing through it, I came across a letter dated March 30th, 1973. Now, of course, I wasn't alive in 1973. I'm far too young for that, but it was a memorable year. I'm aware of that. The US had just pulled out of Vietnam. It was a recession. There was Watergate. LBJ died. It was also the year of Roe v. Wade. So in some ways, it felt a lot like this moment, filled with fear and uncertainty, but also a smidge of promise. Anyway, this letter that E.B. wrote, it was to a reader named Mr. Nadeau. And he'd written E.B. to express just how bleak things felt, how he was a bit lost, and he was a bit hopeless for humanity's future. Dear Mr. Nadeau, E.B. wrote, as long as there is one upright man, as long as there is one compassionate woman, the contagion may spread, and the scene is not desolate. Hope is the thing that is left to us in a bad time. I shall get up Sunday morning and wind the clock as a contribution to order and steadfastness. Sailors have an expression about the weather. They say the weather is a great bluffer. I guess the same is true of our human society. Things can look dark, then a break shows in the clouds, and all is changed, sometimes rather suddenly. And so, he told Mr. Nadeau, hang on to your hat, hang on to your hope, and wind the clock, for tomorrow is another day. Alex, you offer some version of this letter to everyone in your orbit. Everyone around you sees and feels your stubborn and unrelenting belief in hope, but also the work it takes to get there. This is your true north, and it should be ours too. So tonight, everybody, hold on to your hat, hold on to your hope. Alex Kotlowitz is among us.
Amazing, amazing. Many of you probably know that Alex helped make the documentary, The Interrupters. It's about people in Chicago whose job it is to stop violence from spreading, who disrupt potentially violent situations. Alex worked on this film almost 15 years ago. This is really incredible because this was before really this critical work had spread, that people didn't know about it. It hadn't been tested. And The Interrupters help spread that message. The next speaker was one of the violence interrupters featured in the film, Ricardo Kobe Williams. Cobe started with Ceasefire Illinois. He's now the director of national programs for Cure Violence Global. He has talked about his life-saving work on numerous college campuses, at TEDx, at the US Capitol, and at the United Nations. He's also the author of a new book called Interrupting Violence. Please welcome Cobe to the stage.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Yes. I was going to write the speech down, but I said I just want to speak from the heart because, man, Alice means so much to me. I mean, what I respect about Alice, when they was first filming the documentary, The Interrupters, we built so much a great relationship. And Alex looked at us like, more than that, like a subject, but a friend, though. So that's why I respect him, because the work we do every day to make a difference in the community, and how sometimes people might look at us this way, that way, but we was never a subject to him. We was like a friend to somebody who believed in us and who believed what we doing every day to make a difference. I had the opportunity to spend so much time with Alex during The Interrupters, and even now. Me and this guy traveled so much together all over the world. We had so many great times. Me and my close buddy, Joaquin Noah, anytime we had to do a presentation, anytime we had to do a speaker, anything we had to do, Alex was the first person we called. Because we always say, Alex, we need some talking points. So he was always there, though. You know, he was a guy who just stayed in contact, that could always pick up the phone. I talk to Alex probably every other day or every day. This guy, I learned so much from him. Even me and my co-author Josh putting a book together, I got that really from Alex, inspired me to want to write a book. So what Alex have done, not just for journalists and everybody, he really connected. He really bring a lot of great people together. And when Alice introduces you to somebody, it make you feel great, because I honor this guy so much. So much. And a few years ago, I lost my mother, I lost my brother, but he was always there for me. At the funeral, I always asked me, do I need anything? How's the kids? How's your family doing? He always never made it about him. And one thing about Alex, and I always used to say this about him, I say, Alex, real nosy, though. He from nosy. And when I say that, it's a couple of things that, so it's a couple of things. So, like I say, with Joaquin Noah, he was playing for the Chicago Bulls, and him, and Alex would be together. And Alex would be asking Joaquin questions like, yeah, so what y'all had going in the locker room? What about this? What about that? Hey, how's your relationship with Derrick Rose? How's it with Demi Butler? Alex want to know everything. Everything. So Joaquin, the respect he had for Alex, he sat there and answered all the questions that Alex wanted to know, because Alex wasn't going to let him off the hook. So this guy, man, it's a few times I remember he got on me. So I've been doing this work close to 20 years, but I remember we went to Baltimore. And me and Alex in Baltimore, we was at the film festival because they're showing the documentary The Interrupters. So it's like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, we walking around in the community, about the harbor area, walking around. So as these young little kids came on dirt bikes, you know, riding up and down the street. So the police chased them, trying to catch them. So me and Alex standing outside. So while the police was chasing them, I said, go this way, go this way, go this way. They got away. But Alex said, what is you doing? I say, Alex, it's just man said, I didn't want them to get caught, Alex, man. So he got on me about it. But I had the opposite. It was crazy. Then I commit Alex now in front of everybody. Alex beat me in the one-on-one basketball game. He beat me. I committed now, Alex. I was in denial for a long time, so I didn't let this guy beat me, did I? But I committed now. But when you think about a person like Alex, though, it's like he just a guy who really, really just make you really want to be around him, though. He don't know. I learned, like, he'll pick my brain a lot of times when he was writing books and asking me different things and all that. I learned so much from him, though. And he always made time. He always made time. He never, like, he too busy. He got something to do. He always made time. And when I started writing my book, and the first thing people said when they first saw the book come out, how did you get him to write a foreword for you? It's like, that's the main thing. So the respect, Alex, not just me that I have for you, everybody all around the world have for you. It's just so much respect, and people really appreciate what you have done in this field. And you really like the MVP. You are the MVP, Alex, for real though, man. So, and it's been great to even get to know Alex's wife, his kids. It's like so many times invited me and my family over to eat and just built a real relationship. So to have people like Alex in the world make the world a better place. And Alex, I know this is a special night for you, but I hope you get through it, Alex, but please just enjoy yourself, and thank you very much.
Cobe, that was beautiful, but you know the thing that mattered most to Alex was you saying that he beat you in basketball. Joakim Noah is my all-time favorite Bull, even more than Michael Jordan. That says a lot about me, I think. I'm weird. Yep, it's true, Alex, we're saying all these wonderful things about you. I also want to say, it goes without saying, that his wife, Maria, is also incredible in her own right. She makes Alex better. The next two speakers are dear friends of both Alex and Maria. Julie Justicz is the executive director of a nonprofit that promotes health equity in our city. She's also written 2 novels. Mary Rowland spent 10 years as a public defender in Chicago. She then worked as a civil rights lawyer. She now works in the federal courts. Here are Julie and Mary.
Okay, those are tough acts to follow. I have to start with a confession after Meribah's comments, because I was at that dinner and I was the person who said, when the fuck is that book gonna get done? And I feel like Maria kind of puts me up to that, but I am often the person who's saying to Alex, what the fuck are you working on now? So it's an honor to be here tonight, of course, to honor Alex, and then to be with all these incredible writers and reporters, including my wife, who is a novelist, and I'm not sure exactly why I'm here. I think I've been asked to sort of offer some comic relief, because I don't write very well. So here I am, and we've heard about Alex and, you know, all his empathy and grace, and he's a great writer, he's an amazing reporter. I mean, we all know that. We came out in the rain, for God's sakes, to be here. I'm really enough about that. So we're gonna offer a little bit more about the personal side of Alex, because that's really what we know more about. And I have to start with that laugh. I don't know if you've all had the pleasure of being with Alex when he really gets laughing, because it is something. I don't know, you could start with the word jarring. Alarming would be getting closer. So one night we were out with Alex, and without his permission, and this would probably be a federal crime, we tape recorded it. Okay, that's actually a donkey braying. But we often dine, the four of us dine a lot together, and we usually do that mostly at Maria and Alex's house, because Maria is a phenomenal cook and a quintessential entertainer. Sometimes at our house, we bring up the rear a bit in that. But we tell Alex this because we like to eat Maria's food and stuff. It's really because eating out with him it can cause a bit of a stir if he starts really laughing. People start staring. It's embarrassing. And we've seen the tables on either side clear. So we dine in.
Well, we've all heard about how Alex is the quintessential New York intellectual, and there is this other side of him that I think shatters this image, or at least complicates it a little bit. I'm talking about Alex, the outdoorsman, the canoeist, and his frequent trips to the boundary waters. Yes, the same Alex who writes with such delicate nuance about the human condition heads out annually into the wilderness to fish, decompress, and engage in, let's say, some crazy male bonding. As someone who grew up with 6 brothers, as a wannabe butch lesbian, I've long harbored fantasies of being asked by Alex to join him and the guys someday, but the invitation hasn't been forthcoming, so I've consoled myself. I've heard the mosquitoes are awful, and the induction ceremony for newbies, barbaric. Just ask some of the walking wounded here among us. Chris Walker, Lucas Kotlowitz, can I hear an amen? So while I may never join Alex on the lakes or portaging, whatever the heck that is, hearing his dispatches from the wilderness are like participating vicariously in something equal parts mythic, comedic, and survivalist. So thank you for that.
So recently we had the opportunity to spend a long weekend with Alex and Maria at a lovely house in Lakeside, Michigan. Much less daunting for Maria and I, who don't have any interest in going to the Boundary Waters with Alex and his friends. And so Alex had gone up early to do some writing on the next book that undoubtedly we're going to be having dinner in 4 years, and I'm going to be saying, what the fuck is up with the book? But we let Alex go up early so that he could get some work done. And we went up on Saturday morning. We picked Maria up and we drove up. And we get there and we, tiptoe into the house. We don't want to disturb the writer at work. And we get there and the dog is curled on the couch with Alex. And there's a number of magazines laying around and some books, and they're both dead asleep. And as far as we can tell, the only thing that's happened is they have gone to the market and bought fruit pies. And we had a lovely time, but as far as we can tell, there was not a whit of work done the entire week. Which brings me to my thought about Alex, because I have this very structured job where I show up at 8 and I leave at 8, and in the meantime I'm very busy with people, and every time I have dinner with Alex he's kind of fishing for stories, and he's saying like, well, so what's going on? Do you know anything? I mean, what's happening? Is there a story there? And I think, is this how you earn a living? Like, do you just walk up and down State Street and hope to run into people and think there might be a story here? Like, is this how the New York Times and the New Yorker and the Wall Street Journal, is this how they operate? I mean, I would think they could do a little better. So I've never really understood, like, how is their income, operating in that house? But I've always wondered that about Alex. But I do want to say on a more serious note that Alex, you and I think it's fair to say, share a very deep interest in the criminal justice system, if we can call it that. And I was so moved in Never a City So Real, which I don't know that it gets the attention it deserves, but in that book, Alex tells people, or he reports that he tells people when they move to Chicago, one of the first things they should do is go to 26th Street, which is our criminal court building, and it's, I think, one of the largest criminal court buildings in the country, and he writes in that book that people should go there to understand how we in this county treat the accused and their families, and they should spend a day there watching that. And to have a man of his stature say that in a book with that level of publication is pretty profound. And given my work and my life's commitment, it means a lot to me and to people that I've worked with. And more recently, Northwestern University made the commitment to run a program in Stateville, which is a max prison about 2 hours from Chicago, and Alex is not the only person to get credit here, but Alex was one of the first to raise his hand to teach in Stateville and to take a group of men and teach them writing. And every week he drove 2 hours there and 2 hours back with a group of students and taught men who are incarcerated writing, and a group of those men in the inaugural class, a group of those men received a bachelor's degree from Northwestern. And again, Alex, fishing for stories, has gotten those stories published, which is to his credit, and I'm thrilled about that. But those men's work is really such a collective victory over everything that is so, if I may use the French again, so fucking dehumanizing about our carceral system. And so, Alex, while I love to tease you and make fun of you, and I don't actually understand what it is you do, that is the reason you're one of my North Stars.
So what we're trying to highlight here is a word you'll see throughout the program. I didn't know it was going to be there so many times, but apparently a lot of us think alike. What Alex really embodies is Menschkeit, the qualities of integrity, honor and compassion, and good humor of a Mensch. Alex is someone who shows up when it matters, for his family, for his friends, his students, for the folks he writes about and is profiled on the page, many who have become lifelong friends, and many of whom are with us tonight. And we're not talking about grand gestures. We're talking about the everyday moments that really reveal a person's character. When our daughter was sick and hospitalized for several months during a very difficult period during COVID, Alex regularly arrived at our front door with a meal. Now, given it was a meal that Maria shopped for, cooked, prepared, prepped, but Alex showed up, and he didn't just show up, he showed up, sat down, and with that sort of staring off into space Alex look, just really was there for us, listening, asking questions, but never too many, and taking our minds off our deepest worries for a moment and letting us find laughter in a time when we thought there was nothing to laugh about. And he reminded us that showing up for people sometimes is the very best gift you can give. Alex leads with kindness, and he also takes the time to lift others up. He encouraged me in my own writing on day one when I thought there was no way. He connected me to folks. He even was gracious enough to interview me at 2 book launches. And he's given this kind of mentorship and support to so many. And as Ben said earlier, we are just better people, all of us here tonight, for having Alex in our lives. So Alex, my friend, thank you for your stories, for your friendship, and for being the kind of person the world so desperately needs, for being a true citizen mensch. We love you, and this award could not go to anybody more deserving.
Amazing. We're getting close to when Alex will actually come up here and get this award. It's exciting. This is the Billy Goat Tavern on the stage, by the way, and this is the Mike Rokai's desk. So there's no one better to hand off the award than a former or current Hall of Famer, somebody who's in the Hall of Fame. Stuart Dybek got this award himself in 2018. He's one of those fiction writers who makes everything up. Stuart has published 6 books of fiction and 2 collections of poetry. He's won numerous other awards in addition to this one. He is truly one of our great chroniclers of the city. You read his short stories and you feel what it's like to travel our streets, to ride our trains, to love and lose and live here. Please welcome to the stage, Stuart Dybek.
It's a real privilege to be here and share this unbelievably well-deserved moment with Alex. He's a self-described accidental Chicagoan. Maybe we all are, though. I don't. And there's, for me, something about a writer like Alex that's always necessary for a city, but it couldn't be more so than any time other than now. He's the kind of one of the things that a writer can do is, whether fiction or nonfiction, is they can change your perception of where you live. They can change your perception of the world in which you live. If they're good, if they're great. And that's what Alex does. He takes, he's been compared, he was a great friend of Studs Terkel. Studs loved him. And when Studs was here, I'd say that Studs really took that spot that I'm talking about, where you define a city in a way that's so positive that whether you've ever read his books or not, you feel the effects of it. And that's what Alex's books have done for this city. In a time when there's all kinds of, I don't even know what to call it. I've never seen anything like it before in my lifetime. Those books are taking a stand. One of the things I'd say about him as a writer, if Studs was a musician, and if Alex was a musician, the instrument they'd play would be the baton. And what I mean by that is that they arrange things. They're a portal. People's stories pass through them like music passes through a great conductor. And one of the things that Studs really knew is that if you take the great issues that we all live with and face every day, race, assimilation, democracy, and you try to treat them as these great, great ideas, you're not going to have the success that somebody can, which is what Alex and Studs both did, which is to boil them down to individual people's individual stories. The grand ideas really are at the heart of everybody that he's written about, but with it comes the humanity. And the talking about empathy, that's absolutely critical, not just to the way he writes, but to the effect that his writing has on readers, especially young readers. I met him way back when his book came out that would later win the Heartland Award, Heartland Prize. It's called The Other Side of the River. I was teaching in Michigan then, and I knew exactly the river that he was talking about. It's the St. Joseph. I kayaked on it a lot. It's got a really strong current, and it's a great river to fish on. After reading his book, I've never felt the same about that river. The book is about a river that divides rich and poor, white and black, and it's a river about an unsolved murder. At least the book convincingly gives you the impression that it can only have been that of a 16-year-old young black kid. But talking about rivers, you can't talk about a river with Alex without this, not what I would call the other side of Alex. I would call it something that just shows the enormous breadth of what this guy can write about, how he can write about something. I wanted to just read you a little, like a paragraph, just for a taste. So he's talking about boundary waters, and this piece appeared in the New Yorker, and he starts off doing, I think, one of his great secret moves as a writer. If you want to write nonfiction, study it. He's got this incredible ability before really diving into a story which is going to be absolutely about a human being, human characters, of getting over as fast as he can, as clear and deft as he can, the stakes of the story. So if he's going to write about, as he does in the wonderful, great book that really made his reputation, he's telling you right at the start that we're in a housing project. This is a single mom. Here's her problems. He gets it out of the way, and the rest of the book, all the energy goes into making that woman's character, that woman's world, the world of her children. And it's that kind of humanity that makes him such an absolutely special and critically needed writer at a time like this. But when he writes about the boundary waters, he does that same thing in the New Yorker article. He talks about a place that was off limits for mining. And when Trump became president, Trump changed that. And there's all kinds of pressure now to have a copper mine there, which would absolutely destroy, for all we know, great parts of that absolutely unique wilderness. So you've heard me describing him, describing his writing. Better to just hear it. From a small town, Grand Marais, we headed up the Gunflint Trail, a winding road that was then partly gravel and which extends 57 miles to the northeast corner of the wilderness area. There we rented an aluminum canoe in Duluth packs and followed the snaking river to a series of lakes, each of its own shape and character, each more beautiful than the last. I had never experienced such stillness. I fell in love. Every summer, for the past 44 years, I've headed north. I grew up in Manhattan and have spent my adult life in Chicago. So I think it's fair to say I'm a city boy. But I feel most at home on the water, traveling now by canoe, now lightweight Kevlar rather than aluminum. Where I can eat freshly caught trout, where I can be serenaded by the mournful wails of the loons as they welcome in the night, When I'm not there, I yearn for it. As naturalist writer Terry Tempest Williams wrote, if you know wilderness in the way you know love, you'd be unwilling to let it go. Isn't that beautiful? I've been pleading with him to write a whole book on the subject. Also, and I'm going to end on this, I wouldn't say I've been pleading with him, but we've talked a long time about the two of us getting on the water together, not out in Boundary, but in Chicago. I grew up just a few blocks away from the sanitary canal and that place on 26th Street. And I have this vision. One thing is that I think Alex is a protector. I know he is a protector. It's all in his writing. So I know if I got on the water with him, and you know he's coming from all this experience in this wild place with bears and wolves, and hurt yourself there, you're in trouble. And so I feel safe with him on a river that those of us who grew up where I did affectionately knew as Shit Creek. And I can see us. There's this word that keeps coming up in Alex's work on this particular subject, portage. Portage, that's a terrifying word. Because you think you're going down a river and you're riding the current or even paddling against it, that's one thing, but having your canoe on your back and climbing up a mountain to make this portage, that's quite another. So I see us putting in over on Damon, and then paddling. That river is so thick with muck that it's not the current you worry about, it's how sluggish it is. It's just wearing you out. And I've never gone over in my kayak, but in my imagination, now that I've got him around, he's in his canoe. And there are these dangerous carp that might leap out and impale you. You know, you're going under all these bridges that look like they've been made out of pigeon crap. And people have a habit of throwing things off of them as you're going under. And, you know, like cinder blocks. And I see myself just going over. And he paddles over and he pulls me out. He puts me back in my kayak. Now we're soaking wet, pretty smelly. And we have to portage over Western Avenue. We're portaging down Western Avenue, and we're standing there waiting for the Western bus, and we're wondering, how the hell are we going to get a kayak and a canoe in this bus? But anyway, I'm going to end there now. As people have said at least twice this evening, fiction writers make shit up. And I didn't want to disappoint you on that. So Alex, come get it, man.
I had all these notes I wanted to go through. I'm going to cut this a little bit short because I really want to get to this conversation with Dawn. But guys, Ben, Meribah, Julie, Mary, Stu, Cobe, man, thanks so much. That was, you know, I've heard people say that this is kind of like being at your own funeral, but I think it's much better because you're here. So look, I'm so honored to get this Fuller Award. Maria jokingly calls this the End of the Road Award. But I'd like to think I have another book or two in me. I got to first give a really big shout out to Don Evans. Don, where are you? Don has single-handedly created this sense that to be a writer in Chicago is something to be celebrated. The Chicago Literary Hall of Fame and this award has done so much to fortify the writing community in Chicago. And it's a community I'm so honored and grateful to be a part of. And so Don and your colleagues, Amy, Randy, and others, thanks so much. You make me so proud to be a Chicagoan, and especially a Chicago writer. Yeah. And also to the Chopin Theatre for hosting this event. I mean, it's just such a beautiful space. I'm honored to be here on Mike Royko's set. We were poking around, and it actually, in his Rolodex, it's actually on studs with his phone number here. It is, I'm serious. Also, a quick thank you to the sponsors, some of the sponsors tonight. Bookends and Beginnings, one of the best independent bookstores out there. Ragdale, which gave me the quietude and space to write There Are No Children Here. And, of course, to the Medill School of Journalism, which has been my home and such a welcoming home for 25 years and counting. And also, I don't know if anybody's here from MacArthur's. I don't know if Cornbread or Sharon are here, but just they're provided the food, and it's if you haven't been there, it's the best damn soul food restaurant in the city. When I learned I was receiving this award, one of the first people I thought to ask speak was my dear friend Chris Ware. And Chris, well, in lieu of heaping praise on me or taking shots at me, asked if he couldn't draw a poster for the event. And who was I to turn down Chris Ware? Chris, where are you, Chris? It's Chris. It is. It is so beautiful, and I also got to say, with 6 arms, it gives me some options for my jump shot. So, when Scott Turow got this award last year, he talked some about the luck involved in his career. And I'm kind of with them. I think any artist or writer, no matter how talented, if you're being honest, will concede that they draw on luck. Sometimes a lot of luck. Finding an enthusiastic publisher, getting a rave review, writing about something that for reasons no one can fully explain becomes part of the zeitgeist. And I've often thought, too, as a nonfiction writer, and Ben and Meribah, I suspect you probably feel the same way, so much of what we do depends on chance, on finding a story. It's kind of like looking for gold. You know what you're looking for, you know where to look for it, and you generally have a sense of what tools to use. But if you find that story, the story that touches the heart or alters the soul, you feel pretty damn fortunate. But here's where I feel especially lucky, and that's having found a community of those like you guys here tonight. Writing can be pretty darn lonely. And when Maria was working, and I home writing all day, or kind of writing all day, I used to corner her when she'd come in through the door, and I just barrage her with questions, like what happened at the office, who'd you talk to, how's so-and-so doing? It would drive her crazy. And she'd tell me every time I needed to get a job, a real job. But really, I just needed to be connected to the world out there. And I worry sometimes that left to my own devices, I just curl up in my office at home and never come out. And so I'm forever grateful to have found this community of other writers, of fellow travelers, of deeply loyal friends. I found you on the basketball court. Miles, where are you? Miles Harvey. A big thanks for the generous piece you wrote in the program, and a hearty congrats on your new short story collection. I found Found you paddling in the North Woods. Chris Walker, are you here, Chris? I thought so. Yeah, Chris all the way up there. A big thanks for paddling with me for 30 years and for the beautiful photos. All the photos you see of the canoeing are Chris's. I found you at work, through teaching, at places I've written for, at my publishing home. I've found you because I've been in awe of your writing or your art. I found you because we live in the same neighborhood or because we share a sense that things need not be this way. And most importantly, I found you through the stories I've written. And that's where I feel the luckiest. So many people I've written about or filmed or interviewed for radio have become a part of my life and my family's life. And we feel so much richer for it. I look around tonight, and honestly, I feel like the luckiest man in the world. And I mean that. I was going to talk a little bit about what I do, but I feel like maybe Dawn and I can do this better. A couple of things I just want to say. Just the obvious, which is I believe in the fierce power of narrative. I fiercely believe in the fierce power of narrative. It's got this capacity to change the way we not only look at the world around us, but also the way we look at ourselves. And I think at this moment in time, stories are especially important. That so many out there have weaponized narrative, have used stories to hold on to power, to castigate and push other people aside. And so I think it's so essential that we tell stories that are honest to what we see and to what we hear, stories that, as others have talked about tonight, that find empathy with people whose experiences and lives might differ from our own. And so I can't think of a more important time to be a storyteller of fiction or nonfiction. But stories, as Tim O'Brien has written, have the capacity to save us. And so we've got to keep on telling stories. So a few final thank yous. I'm going to lose my place here. First, I got to give a shout out to my brother Dan, who came here from Vermont, a confident, a best friend, a beloved professor, and I learned today actually a pretty talented plumber. We fixed my toilet today. Dan and I grew up in an apartment on the west side of Manhattan on the first floor of a pre-war building, and all our windows overlooked courtyards, and so it was a really, really dark apartment. It was so dark that sometimes you couldn't even tell what the weather was outside. And so despite those environs, or maybe because of them, my brother chose his career as a theatrical lighting designer. And all I can figure, Dan, is you're making up for lost time. Finally, to Lucas and Maddie, you make me so damn happy, so damn proud. Lucas, your wisdom, your sense of decency, your generosity, and of course your love for fishing. With this last book, Lucas would often come in on a weekend morning. This is when he would get up in the morning, and you'd let me read you some chapters from the book. And I know you were just a little bit biased, but I got to say your enthusiasm for what you heard kept me going. So thanks, man. And Maddie, your humor and caring nature, and like your brother, your generosity, I just love it all. I adore you. You've promised that you're going to take care of your mom when she gets really old at the senior center where you work at. And I'm just hoping that it also might include me. And finally, there's Maria, who's never stopped believing. You've been my first reader. You've been the one who keeps me balanced, who tells me when I'm done asking questions, who rolls your eyes at my mess of an office, so you should see Stu's, who pretends not to notice when I'm catching a nap on the couch, who nudges me ever gently when I need to start writing. I'm in awe of what you did with the Young Center, and and I think more importantly, I'm in awe that you're still by my side. So thanks.